So, Kerry, I thought what we do for defensive passer rating, very briefly, you say it all the time, but explain what it is and why it's important.
What it is, we just take the formula for quarterbacks, apply it to pass defense, apply it to team pass defense. The reason why it's important is because it has a direct correlation to winning football games. Teams that are good in defensive pass rating win championships and win championships consistently throughout history. And this year's going to be a good example, by the way. Teams that give up a lot of passing yards aren't necessarily the worst pass defenses if they have a good defensive pass rating. And I know we'll get into each team, but a great example right now, the Packers on pace to give up more yards than almost any team in history except for the Patriots this year. But 27 picks, leading the NFL by a wide margin. They're number 7 in defensive pass rating. So you need to look at all aspects of pass defense. When analysts talk about those yards allowed, it's really meaningless in the big picture.
And last year, for example, and this you can go back year after year, Pittsburgh and Green Bay, number 1 and 2 in defensive pass rating, the two teams in the Super Bowl.
And you could go through any year. And 2009 is a great example where the Saints, 25 teams gave up less yards through the year than the 2009 Saints. But they were 3rd in defensive pass rating, and they won the championship. And not only did they win it, that defense, that pass defense, helped carry them to that Super Bowl victory.
Okay, so let's look at both conferences right now. If the playoffs were to start today, these are the 6 teams from each conference that would be in the playoffs, and these are their defensive passer rating. In other words, these are, we see all the numbers for quarterbacks, how their defense ranks. And a barometer, and again, there's a track record of who will do. And interestingly, in the AFC, Houston has been number 1 almost all year long. They've turned that defense around with Wade Phillips. Baltimore is number 2. And this is with both conferences, folks, by the way. So if the playoffs were to start today, the seeds would be Patriots, Ravens, Houston, Denver, the division winners, then Steelers and Jets. Top 3 defensive passer rated teams and 4 of the top 6. In the AFC, and the Patriots and Broncos 24th and 30th.
And I think with the cold hard football facts do better than anybody, Butch, not to toot our own horn. We take a stat and then we put the context around it. So right now, Houston, Baltimore, the Jets, 1, 2, and 3 in defensive pass rating. Normally, these are Super Bowl contenders, but those 3 teams all have a problem. What's that problem? They don't have a quarterback. I mean, Houston is down to its 3rd-string quarterback, also lost its defensive coordinator, the curse of Doug Flutie, as we talked about. Baltimore does not have a great quarterback. We talked about Joe Flacco a minute ago. The Jets, Mark Sanchez has not had a great career. He's had a couple nice big playoff games. We know he's got a little bit of an Elway-esque thing to him where he can play great in the postseason, but he's not a guy you want to count on to carry your team to the Super Bowl. And so let's go down the list, and you get the Patriots 24th in defensive passer rating. But what do they have? They have an elite quarterback, perhaps the best quarterback in football, at least one of the 2 or 3 best. And by the way, one thing people talk about Tebow all the time, Tim Tebow, how is this team winning? They still have one of the worst pass defenses in football. The Broncos are 30th in defensive pass rating. That pass defense is a 2 or 3 win pass defense. They're not forcing interceptions. They're giving up a lot of touchdowns. And it's almost a miracle that they've won this many games that they're in first place in the AFC West.
Well, here's the other thing I find interesting. Let's look at the Patriots and the Packers. Because they're very similar. They're the only 2 teams in the NFL that have given up more than 4,000 passing yards up to this point. We go to the NFC, and here's the rankings for the NFC. The Packers are 7th. And again, you've got 3 of the top 10 in the Packers, the Niners, and the Lions as far as defensive passer rating. The Saints are 21st. Keep in mind the Patriots are 24th. Cowboys are 15th, and the Falcons are 14th. And again, folks, this is with 2 weeks left to go. A lot could change. The Cowboys could lose that division. But the seeds right now are Packers, Niners, Saints, Cowboys, and then the Falcons and Lions would be the wild card.
And the team you feel good about right there, to be honest, is San Francisco. I mean, they've been an efficient team all year. We talked about Jim Harbaugh earlier this year. They're doing a lot of little things right. We saw Monday night where obviously Pittsburgh quarterback was injured. But that's a good, solid pass defense. They've been good all year. And Alex Smith, has not had a great career. He's been a disappointment for a number 1 pick. But playing very efficient football under Jim Harbaugh. You take a very efficient quarterback, pair it with an efficient pass defense. That's a formula for championship success. That's a team that can, I'm not predicting they will, but that could knock off the Saints or the Packers in the playoffs.
Okay, so when you look at defensive passer rating, it doesn't tell the whole story. It is a real good indicator. It's the number 1 indicator that you love to use when it comes to playoff time. Here's what I find interesting. Again, the Packers and the Patriots are the only 2 teams in the NFL that have given up more than 4,000 yards. They give up yards in bunches at a record-setting pace. But as you mentioned, the Packers have 27 interceptions. Patriots have 18 interceptions. I meant to look up forced fumbles. I swear the Patriots have more fumble recoveries than any team.
Only 3 teams have more interceptions than the Patriots. So those turnovers matter. When analysts are on an NFL broadcast, they say, oh, this team, for the sake of argument, is number 10 in pass defense. They're only looking at yards allowed. That's an irrelevant, Butch, it's literally an irrelevant, meaningless number to look at yards
allowed, passing yards allowed.
Or even passing yards on offense. It really doesn't matter. It's how efficient you are. And the famous stat we like to use, the famous cold hard football fact to prove that, Butch, the last team, and I know we've talked about this, the last team to lead the NFL in passing yards, the last quarterback and win a championship with Johnny Unitas, 1959, 52 years ago. It's been that long since a quarterback led the NFL in passing yards and won a championship.
Interesting.